Two officers are standing on my porch on a Tuesday morning, holding a felony complaint bearing my full legal name and middle initial. My mother filed it. She told them I stole my grandmother's emerald ring. My daughter Lily is at school. I am barefoot. My coffee has gone cold. I have not slept since the chairs at her 8th birthday party sat empty. I am Myra Eaton, 32, single mother, software engineer. 3 days earlier, I opened Venmo and sent my own mother $1. The memo read, "Hope it's memorable." I pressed send in this same kitchen, staring at 23 handmade name cards still stacked on the counter. Cards a little girl had written in marker for relatives who RSVP'd yes and never once turned a doorknob. What the officers do not know, and what my mother does not know, is that the ring belongs to me in writing, and the letter inside my safe is about to read itself aloud in a ballroom my company owns. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. This is the channel for women who stopped explaining and started filing. Women whose loudest revenge was the document they already had. If you have ever held proof your family swore did not exist, leave one word in the comments and subscribe. 3 months before the birthday, I drove out to my mother's house for Sunday dinner with a stack of printed save-the-date cards tucked in my purse. I had used good cardstock. I had hand-addressed each one in Lily's name. I wanted nobody to have an excuse. My mother Diane was at the stove, stirring something that smelled like cumin and resentment. My sister Brittany sat at the kitchen island with her phone face down. Her husband Ron was outside with my mother's husband Greg, both of them drinking the same beer in the same shade of brown. Lily was at home with Jennifer, my coworker, watching a Disney movie about a fish. I waited until the plates were down. I waited until the wine was poured. Then I stood and walked one card around the table to each adult. I said it plainly. Lily is turning 8 on the 4th of May. I'm doing a real party this year. Bounce house, cake, the whole thing. I want all of you there. Brittany picked up the card, read the date, and tapped it into her calendar with one thumbnail. Got it. May 4th. Ron nodded. We'll be there. Aunt Margie was on speakerphone. She said, yes. My mother set down her wine glass and looked at me with the version of her face she reserved for funerals. Of course we'll be there, honey. She's our baby. Lily had never had a party with extended family. Every year, somebody had a thing. Camila's recital.
Camila's quinceañera planning.
Camila's school trip fundraiser. Every May was somebody else's costume change. This year, I had asked in person. I had watched the words land in each set of eyes. I drove home believing I had done it right. I am an engineer. I built systems for a fintech firm in Charlotte called Halsard Capital, and I have not missed a deadline in 11 years. When I plan something, I plan it the way I plan a software release. By the second week of February, I had a spreadsheet. Column A was names. Column B was relationship. Column C was the date of their confirmation. Column D was a hyperlink to the screenshot of the text where they confirmed. 14 family members had said yes. 4 coworkers had said maybe. I ordered 22 chairs. I rented a bounce house. I paid $185 for a 2-tier cake from a bakery on Main Street that Lily had chosen herself, the one with the pink display case. Every night before bed, Lily would lie on her stomach with her chin in her hands and recite the guest list like a prayer. Grandma Diane, Aunt Brittany, Uncle Ron, Camila, Aunt Margie, Cousin Megan, Cousin Holly, Cousin Holly's husband, Uncle Pete, Aunt Carrie, Cousin Tess, Cousin Tessa's boyfriend, Grandpa Greg, Mrs. Park, Jennifer, and the cake lady if she has time. She always ended with the cake lady. The cake lady had been kind to her at the consultation. I would say, and me. She would say, of course you're the boss. The kitchen table slowly disappeared beneath cardstock and glue sticks. Lily was making name cards. She had decided on her own that every chair needed one. I should have known then. I should have noticed that I was the only adult in this story who believed the spreadsheet was a contract. I had been building systems for 11 years. I had forgotten that families are not systems. The phone call from Brittany came on a Thursday 3 weeks out. I was at my desk reviewing a code commit when her name lit up my screen. She opened lightly. Hey, super quick thing. Don't kill me. We're doing a tiny prep meeting for Camila's quinceañera that same Saturday, like 2 to 4. It won't conflict with yours, though. Yours is at 1, right? I clicked over to my spreadsheet. Yes. 1 to 5. Perfect. Mom and I will pop over to your thing after we drop by Camila's. We'll bring a casserole. I asked who else was coming to the planning meeting. She did the thing she does when she lies. She talked faster. Just, the moms, some aunties. The DJ guy might swing by with samples. Camila's friend group is doing the centerpieces. I asked where it was being held. Oh, just at the country club. Cypress Ridge. They have us in a side room for an hour. Nothing big. I asked if she wanted me to push Lily's party to Sunday so there was no overlap at all. No. Mom would kill me. We've got everything set. Don't be a control freak, Myra. It'll be fine. I said okay. I logged the call. Date, time, length, and the quote about the side room. I had been logging calls for 8 months by then. I had not told her. After we hung up, I sat looking at my phone. The thing about Brittany is that she has always been a passable liar to my mother and a terrible one to me. The tiny prep meeting had a venue. It had a DJ. It had a centerpiece crew. That is not a meeting. That is a party with a different name. I called my mother that Tuesday night. I rarely called on weeknights. She picked up on the third ring in the voice she uses when she is moisturizing. Yes, Myra, what is it? I asked whether I should move Lily's party to Sunday to keep the day clean. I said the words I had practiced. I said them slowly. There was a pause. The pause was already an answer. She came back annoyed. Honey, Camila's planning is just 2 hours. Everyone can do both. Why are you making this complicated? I told her the planning meeting seemed to have grown well beyond 2 hours. I told her about the venue. I told her about the DJ. She did not deny any of it. She said, "Don't be the difficult one, Myra. We get one quinceañera. We get one. Lily can have a birthday every single year. She's 8. She'll have 8 more." I said, "I just don't want her to be disappointed." She said, "She won't be. We'll be there. I'll bring the candles." I noted the call time on my phone. I wrote down candles. I underlined it. I almost said the next thing, the one that had been sitting under my tongue for years. About how every spring someone had something Camila needed and Lily's day got compressed. About how my mother had not come to Lily's 4th birthday, or her 5th, or her 6th, because of recitals and tournaments and one time a manicure. I did not say it. I said, "Thanks, Mom. See you Saturday." She made a small humming sound. "Wear something nice. The casual things wash you out." She hung up first. She always did. May 4th was a Saturday. The morning came in cool and clean. The grass was still wet. The compressor for the bounce house started up at 11 with a sound like a small airplane. The bounce house was $340 for 4 hours. Cherry red and yellow with white inflated arches. The rental man, a quiet retiree named Bill, set it down on a tarp at the back of the yard and handed me his card. "Call me when you're done, ma'am. I'll come kill the air." The cake arrived at 11:30. 2 tiers, pink and gold. A little fondant figure on top with sprinkles. The bakery owner stayed an extra 10 minutes because Lily wanted to thank her in person. Lily had written her a thank you card the night before. The chairs were rented, 22 of them, white folding, arranged in 2 arcs around a long table draped in pink linen. The plates were paper but heavyweight. The cups had little owls on them. The name cards were Lily's project. She had been working on them for 2 weeks. You said, "Rewrite the script with very minor changing in excellent words and word quantity same." Each one was a small folded piece of cardstock with the guest's names traced twice in her best hand using a metallic marker. The card at the head of the table read, "Grandma Diane," written in gold. She set down her great-aunt Margie's card and stepped back to study the table. She placed both hands on her hips like a foreman surveying finished work. "It's beautiful," she said. I told her it was the most beautiful birthday table in all of North Carolina. I checked the time. 12:47, 13 minutes until the start. The bounce house compressor hummed steadily behind us. At 12:50 my phone buzzed. Jennifer Park, my closest friend at the firm, the woman who had been holding my coat through every difficult year since I hired her. "Want me to swing by?" "I can bring my niece. She's 6. They love each other." I looked out at the table. 22 seats. 14 confirmed family members. The math held. The chairs would be full. No, you're sweet. Family only today. They wouldn't miss it. Lily's been counting down for weeks. She read the message and began typing. Stopped. Started again. Stopped. Finally. Okay. Save me a slice. I told her I would. She sent a single heart emoji. She did not say what she wanted to say, which was, I think, what every good friend has wanted to say to every other good friend at some point in their lives. I went back outside. Lily was sitting on the porch steps in her dress. Pale pink, white tights, a ribbon in her hair that Mrs. Park had given her 2 days earlier. She was holding the gift Mrs. Park had dropped off the night before, a small wrapped box about the size of a paperback book. She said, "Mommy, can I open Mrs. Park's first?" I said, "We wait for everyone." She nodded. She placed the gift back at the base of the gift table. Then she walked the line of name cards one more time, touching each one with a single finger as though counting them. I had told Jennifer that family shows up. I had said it without thinking because to me that was the rule. You build the system, you plug in the inputs, and family shows up. I checked the time again. 12:56, 4 minutes. 1 o'clock in the afternoon arrived quietly. The driveway was empty. I told myself traffic. I told myself my mother's car had been making a sound the last time we spoke. At 1:08, Lily turned to me from the porch steps and asked if Grandma was bringing the gift she had promised. My mother had promised her 2 weeks earlier on the phone, a bracelet from the jewelry case in her closet. A real one, she had said, with a real stone. Lily had been carrying that anticipation for 2 weeks. I said, "She'll bring it." I texted my mother. No reply. By 1:25, the bounce house was humming alone. 2 squirrels had appeared at the edge of the yard, watching the inflatable arches sway in the breeze. The breeze was warm. The day was objectively perfect for a birthday party. Lily had gone inside. I could hear her in the living room talking to her stuffed rabbit. She was telling him not to worry. I walked the length of the table once. I straightened a name card the wind had shifted, Aunt Margie's. I touched the corner of the pink linen. I looked at the road in front of the house. I looked at the cul-de-sac. There was one car parked across the street. It belonged to the neighbor. I had known that for an hour. When I came back inside, Lily was standing in the hallway with her hands clasped in front of her dress. She said, "Maybe Grandma is just slow." I told her, "Maybe." I told myself the same lie. I held it for 10 more minutes before I picked up the phone again, and what I heard next stopped being a delay. At 2 o'clock, I started making calls. My mother voicemail. Brittany voicemail. I waited 2 minutes between each one because that is what an engineer does. You give the system time to settle before you query it again. I am telling you this because that is precisely how my brain was working. I was watching myself attempt to debug a family. Aunt Margie voicemail. Cousin Megan voicemail. By 2:15 I had left 4 messages, each one calm and measured. "Hey, just checking on your ETA. Let me know." By 2:30 I had left 6. Lily came out and asked very quietly whether she could open Mrs. Park's gift first, just to have something to do. Her voice carried the particular weight it gets right before she cries. I said yes. She sat on the rug in the living room and unwrapped Mrs. Park's gift slowly, the way she opens everything that matters. Inside was a small jewelry box, and inside the box was a beaded bracelet, peach and white, with a charm shaped like a little pearl. She put it on. She did not cry. She held her wrist out in front of her and studied the bracelet for a long, quiet moment. Then she said, "Mommy, do you think they got the time wrong?" I sat down on the rug beside her. I told her that grown-ups sometimes get times wrong. She nodded as though that was a reasonable explanation. She had decided to give them another half hour. The bounce house was still humming in the yard. The cake was still on the kitchen counter beneath its glass dome. The name cards were still on the chairs, shifting faintly in the breeze. I called my mother again. She did not answer. At 3:12 my phone buzzed. It was Cousin Megan, my mother's sister's daughter, the one who has always genuinely liked me. The text was brief, a confused emoji and one line. "I thought you were at Camila's planning. Brittany said you'd be there. Are you sick?" I read it 3 times. I sat down at the corner of the long folding table. I sat in the chair labeled Aunt Margie in gold marker. The cake beneath the glass dome reflected the open sky. I called Megan back. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey," she said carefully. "Are you okay?" I asked her to tell me what was happening at Camila's planning meeting. She paused. "Wait, did you really not get the chat?" "What chat?" "The family chat?" Brittany sent invites last Tuesday. Said the planning meeting was 12 to 5 at Cypress Ridge, catered. She said everyone had confirmed. She said you'd be coming late because you had a small thing first. I told her I was not in that chat. There was a long pause, then a small, quiet breath. "Oh, Myra." I asked how many people were there. She said about 40. She said the buffet was extensive. She said the venue was the main ballroom. She said there were balloons. "Pink and gold," I said. "Like a party." I asked who else from the family was there. She began listing. My mother. Brittany. Ron. Aunt Margie. Aunt Carrie. Uncle Pete. The cousins. Everyone I had invited to Lily's house at 1 o'clock. Everyone whose name was written on a folded card, on a white chair, in my backyard, watching the wind move. I told her I had to go. I hung up. I sat in Aunt Margie's chair for a while. I did not get up. It was not a conflict. It was a takeover. I sat there and let the engineering mind do what it does best. It assembled the picture from its parts. Brittany had built a parallel event. She had built it larger. She had told the family I was attending, had framed Lily's party as the small thing I was doing first and would arrive late from. She had drawn my mother out of my orbit and into hers, pulling the rest of the family along with her. She had been planning it for at least a week, likely longer. A country club ballroom had to be reserved. Catering had to be arranged. The DJ samples and the centerpiece crew she had mentioned to me on the phone, those were real. She had called it a tiny prep meeting. She had used the word tiny. What I understood, sitting in Aunt Margie's chair, was that what she had rearranged was not merely a calendar. She had rearranged a family. I understood, sitting there, that my mother had known. What I felt was not anger. I have felt anger before. Anger is loud and it has a center. This was quieter and it occupied every part of me at once. It was the feeling of standing at a railing and watching a building you constructed fall in on itself. Lily came outside. She was wearing Mrs. Park's bracelet. She walked the line of name cards once and stopped at her own, a small gold rectangle taped to her cake plate that read "Birthday Girl" in Lily's careful printing. She looked at me. She said, "Can we do the cake without them?" I told her, "Yes, baby. Let's do the cake." At 4:02, my mother called. I let it ring 3 times before I picked up. I let it ring 3 times for myself, not for her. Her voice came through bright and breezy, the voice she used at PDA fundraisers. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry I missed your call. We've been knee-deep in tulle and napkin colors. Did Lily have a fun day?" I stood up from Aunt Margie's chair. I walked into the yard with the bounce house humming behind me. I said, "Mom, the party was today. The party I invited you to in person 3 months ago. The party you said yes to in your own kitchen with a wine glass in your hand." There was the smallest pause. Then she shifted into the voice she used at funerals. "Honey, we thought you were coming to Camila's. Brittany told everyone you confirmed. She said you said 1 to 5 was perfect for you." I never confirmed anything for Camila's. There was never a meeting for me to confirm to. There was a party, a full party with balloons and a buffet. Don't be dramatic. It wasn't a party. It was a long planning session. I said, "Mom, there were 40 people there. Cousin Megan had told me." Another pause, then the recalibration. Well, it grew a bit. You know how Brittany is. She always overdoes it. You didn't come to Lily's party. Why didn't you reach out at noon to clarify, Myra? Why didn't you confirm again? I did not answer. I could not answer. The question itself was the answer. She filled the silence. Don't make this into something it isn't. We'll come by tomorrow with the bracelet. We'll do it properly. I said, "Goodbye, Mom." I hung up. I had to. At 5 o'clock, Lily wanted the cake. I lit 8 candles, pink with little white twists, the kind you buy in a box from the grocery store on the same trip you buy mushrooms and bread. We sat at the long folding table with 22 chairs and 21 name cards still in their places. The wind had shifted some of them sideways. Aunt Margie's had tipped forward onto the linen. Grandma Diane's was still upright on the head chair. The bounce house had begun losing pressure. I had not yet called Bill to come shut it down. The compressor was still running, but the structure was sagging in the middle, the cherry red roof folding inward over the white arches. The hiss was soft and continuous, like a slow leak in a tire, like a breath being quietly let go. Lily blew out all 8 candles in one breath. She closed her eyes for a moment afterward, the way she does when she is making a wish. I do not know what she wished. I never asked. Some wishes are not mine to know. They belong only to the person who made them, at the table where they made them, on the day they made them. I cut her a piece. She ate 3 bites. She set down her fork. She said, "Mommy, I think I'm done." I said, "Okay, baby." She got up and walked to the chair labeled Grandma Diane. She picked up the name card. She held it in front of her for a moment. Then she carried it across the yard and dropped it gently into the trash can beside the back fence. She came back. She held my hand. I tucked her in at 7. She was asleep before I closed the door. Then I went to my office. My office is the smallest bedroom in the house. I painted it a deep gray-green 4 years ago when I made VP. It has a desk, a swivel chair, 2 bookshelves, and a 4-drawer file cabinet in the corner that locks. I keep 2 keys, one on my keychain, one in the cedar box on my dresser. I unlocked the bottom drawer. I pulled out a folder. The folder was labeled in my own handwriting, Hartley. Eleonora. My grandmother was Eleonora Hartley. She had lived in Davidson, North Carolina for 43 years. She had been a registered nurse for 31 of them. She had died in November of 2023 at the age of 81, in the back bedroom of my house, in a hospital bed I had assembled myself, with her hand in mine. She had moved in with me 8 months before she died. The doctors had given her 3. She had given them 5. In those 8 months, my mother had visited twice, once for an hour, once for 40 minutes. I had been keeping the folder for 6 months. I had not opened the sealed envelope inside it. My grandmother had written my name on the front in her round, slanted script, and below my name she had written a single instruction: "Open after first public injustice." That was her phrasing. Public injustice. She used the kind of language a woman of her generation used when she meant something precise. She meant the day they did it where everyone could see. I sat at my desk. I placed the folder on the green felt surface. I looked at the sealed envelope for a long time. Then I picked up the letter opener my grandmother had given me at 15. I slid it open. The letter was 3 pages. Eleonora Hartley wrote on watermarked stationery the color of aged cream. Her handwriting was the same shape it had been on every Christmas card of my life. I read it sitting upright. I did not pour wine. I did not light a candle. I read it the way you read a will. My Myra, when you open this, it will be because Diane has done in public what she has been doing in private for 30 years. I watched her choose Brittany at every Christmas. I watched her miss your 10th birthday and remember Camila's salon appointment. I asked her about it once, gently in my own kitchen, while she dried the dishes. She told me you did not need her the way Brittany did. She said you were self-sufficient. She said it the way someone says it when it is a virtue they have stopped feeling obligated to love. Sweetheart, that was the day I called my attorney. Everything I held is now yours to administer. The life insurance policy I took out in 1998, $340,000, was assigned to you in the 2nd month of our last date together. The cedar box on your dresser is yours. The emerald ring is yours. It was my mother's, and it was never going to my younger daughter, because my mother said so on her deathbed, and I kept that promise. The savings account at First Federal, $81,000 and change, is yours. The photograph albums I gave Diane, the Bible I gave Diane, the apology I owed her that I could not deliver in any sufficient form, those are also hers. I have written separate sealed instructions for my executor, Henry Hendricks, regarding any family event your sister or mother organizes within 12 months of my death. He is to read this letter aloud at that event, if and only if you request it. The text of the reading is approved by my attorney and witnessed by 2 parties at signing. That is the law I made for my own death. Use it once. Use it for Lily. I love you, Myra. I always did. Even when I was tired. even when I was wrong. Grandma. I did not cry. I had cried 6 months ago. I picked up my phone. I texted Aaron Rose, my grandmother's estate attorney, the man who had become my attorney the November she died. I wrote, I want to start the file. He replied in 90 seconds. Standing by. The week after Lily's birthday, I did what I do. I made a ledger. Column A was item. Column B was expense. Column C was status. Column D was notes. Bounce house. $340. Paid. Used for 42 minutes total. By one child alone, with no guests. Cake. $185. Paid. 2 tiers. 3 bites consumed. Remainder donated to a women's shelter in Charlotte on Monday afternoon. The shelter director sent a note that they had served it at a Tuesday potluck and the residents had asked for the recipe. Catering, chairs, linens, paper goods, party favors. $291 and change. Paid. Mostly unused. The party favors, small jars of bubbles and packets of crayons I had wrapped myself, I quietly redistributed to Lily's classroom at school. 14 family members confirmed. 0 attended. 22 voicemails left across 9 numbers between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. 6 replies received in the week following. 5 of those 6 were from cousin Megan, who texted me apologetically on Saturday night, Sunday morning, Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and Friday. She also left a small wrapped box on the porch Wednesday with a card that read, I'm sorry. I'm a coward. I love Lily. The box held a sterling silver charm bracelet. Real. The 6th reply was from Aunt Margie. 3 words. Voicemail. Sorry, sweetie. Schedule got crazy. She did not return my call when I called back. I documented all of it. I screenshotted every text thread. I exported them into a single secured PDF labeled with the date and the file name DTL_party_fallout_2024 PDF and dropped it into the folder marked Hartley Eleonora. Aaron called me Thursday morning. The estate paperwork was ready. Probate had cleared in March. He told me whenever I was ready. I told him to hold. I was waiting for the trigger. Lily asked me her question on a Tuesday night. We were brushing her teeth. She was wearing the bracelet from Mrs. Park and the new one from cousin Megan. Her hair was still damp from the bath. She spit out the toothpaste. She looked at me in the mirror. She said, Mommy, did I do something wrong? I asked her what she meant. She said, like to Grandma. Did I do something? Is that why she didn't come? The thing about being 8 is that you are still learning who is responsible for the things that happen around you. You begin with yourself because you are the only person whose mind you have full access to. You check yourself first. You ask, did I do this? You ask, was it me? She had been turning it over in her head for 10 days. I knelt down on the bath mat. I held both of her shoulders. I said, you did nothing wrong. Some grown-ups just forget how to keep their promises. She nodded slowly. She accepted it. She is generous that way. She climbed into bed. I read her one chapter of Charlotte's Web. I turned off the hallway light. With the door half shut behind me, I leaned my forehead against the cool wall. 8 years old. She had already learned the wrong question. I went downstairs. I poured myself a glass of water. I did not pour wine. I picked up my phone. I scrolled to Aaron Rose's number. I did not call him. Not yet. I was waiting for one more thing. I felt it in my chest, that it was coming. The text from my mother arrived on Wednesday morning, May 11th at 10:34. I was at my desk at Halsard Capital in the middle of a code review on a release we were pushing the following week. I felt the phone vibrate. I saw the preview on the lock screen. Your niece's quinceañera is $2,600 per family. Send your share today. No exceptions. Family Venmo at Diane Eaton. There was no hello. There was no how is Lily. There was no I'm sorry about Saturday. There was no acknowledgement that 9 days had passed since 14 people had confirmed to be at my house and 0 had shown. The text just sat there on my screen like a parking ticket. A second text followed 30 seconds later. Don't be cheap. This is family. I read both of them. Then I read both of them again. A third text arrived a minute after that. You will not embarrass me by making us cover your share. Ron's family is watching. I sat at my desk. The cursor blinked in my code editor. The room was quiet. Jennifer was 3 desks down with her headphones on. Through the floor-to-ceiling window behind her, the Charlotte skyline cut a clean line against the sky. The thing my mother had never understood, the thing she had never once bothered to learn in 32 years, was that the engineer in me cannot be moved by escalation. Escalation to me is data. The more she sent, the more I had. I opened the screenshot function on my phone. I captured each one. I airdropped them to my desktop. I labeled the folder demand_2024_05_11. Then I opened Venmo. I searched for Diane Eaton. Her account came up. Profile picture, a stock photo of a sunset over a beach she had never visited. I tapped the amount field. I typed $1. I tapped the memo field. I typed, "Hope it's memorable." I held my thumb over the send button for about 2 seconds. Maybe 3. I am not going to dress it up. Then I send it. The notification flashed. 10:36 in the morning. Sent $1 to Diane Eaton. Note, hope it's memorable. It was the cheapest thing I had ever bought and the most I had ever paid for it. I screenshotted the confirmation. I airdropped it to my desktop. I dropped it into the folder labeled demand_2024_05_11. I closed the app. I went back to my code review. My pulse did not change. I had expected it would. I had expected the feeling people describe in books, where the moment of decision arrives heavy and full of gravity. It did not. There was only the soft click of keys beneath my fingers, the cursor blinking, the sound of Jennifer laughing at something on her screen, and the quiet hum of the building's HVAC. It felt like sending an email. It felt like the cleanest moment of my year. If you have ever sent a family member a single dollar in quiet protest, or wanted to but didn't, drop the date in the comments. I read every one. And if any of this is sounding like a story you have already lived, subscribe before you go anywhere, because I have a great deal more of these, and you have not heard half of mine. I closed Venmo. I went back to work. 23 minutes later, my phone began ringing. Brittany's first text came at 10:41. Her second at 10:42. The first call was at 10:44. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail transcript appeared on my screen in pale blue letters at 10:46. How dare you embarrass us in the family chat? Mom is in tears. I am shaking. Do you know what this looks like to Ron's family? We have RSVPs. We have a venue. We have a ceremony in 3 weeks. Call me back. Call me back, Myra. I did not call her back. Between 10:44 and 11:06, she called 14 times. The screen lit up over and over with her contact photo, a picture from her wedding that she had chosen herself. 14 attempts in 22 minutes. She called from her office. She called from her cell. She called from Ron's cell. She called from a number I did not recognize. My mother's first voicemail arrived at 11:09. Her voice was thin and sharpened. Myra, you sent your mother $1. $1, like I am a beggar, after everything I have given you. After every sacrifice. Pick up the phone, Myra Eaton. Pick up the phone right now. A second voicemail at 11:12. You think you are better than us. You always have. You think you are better because of your job, your house. You are not. A third at 11:15. Camila is going to find out you did this. Is that what you want? I did not pick up. I screenshotted each transcript. I dropped each one into the folder. Then I forwarded everything to Aaron Rose at his work email with 2 sentences in the body of the message. Begin the file today. I left work at noon. I told my manager I had a personal matter. He told me to take whatever I needed. He has known me 11 years. I drove home. I called the locksmith from the car. His name was Hal, 60-something, semi-retired, running his own small shop out of his garage in Morrisville. He arrived within the hour. By 2:05, my house had 4 new locks. Front door, back door, garage entry, office. My mother had held a spare key to the front. She had taken it when my grandmother was ill. She had been asked to return it 3 times. She had never returned it. Hal handed me the new set of keys in a small envelope. He charged me $180 cash. He did not ask why. He has done this work for women in this town before. After he left, I opened my phone. I blocked Diane Eaton. I blocked Brittany Vega. I blocked Ron Vega. I blocked Aunt Margie. I blocked 3 cousins whose names I had been logging for years. I left cousin Megan unblocked. Then I drafted one email through Aaron Rose's office. I did not send it from my own account. He sent it from his, addressed to Diane Eaton and Brittany Vega. Subject: communication going forward. Body: please be advised that effective today, all communications from Diane Eaton and Brittany Vega regarding Myra Eaton or her daughter Lily Eaton will be routed through legal counsel. Future direct contact will be considered harassment. Sincerely, Aaron Rose. Rose and Linwood, attorney for the estate of Eleanora Hartley. I read it 3 times. I told Aaron to send it. He sent it at 4:18. I did not slam a door. I changed who had the key. I picked up Lily from school at 3. I made her macaroni for dinner. Thursday at lunch, Jennifer came over. She sat at my kitchen counter, drank black coffee, and ate half an apple pastry. I told her everything. The dollar, the voicemails, the locksmith, the email through Aaron. When I finished, she set down her coffee. She said, "Myra, you should sue her. False reporting, emotional damages, defamation in the family chat, the whole thing. Make a federal case. Drain her." I said, "I'm not suing." She said, "What?" I said, "I'm not suing. I'm withdrawing." There is a difference. She tilted her head the way she does in meetings when someone has said something she does not yet fully understand. I said, "Suing means I still want them to pay. Suing means I still want a verdict. I do not. Withdrawing means I want them gone. From my life, from Lily's life, from the calendar of every weekend we have left on this earth. I want the second thing." She thought about that. She drank her coffee. She nodded slowly. She said, "Yeah, okay. That's actually better. That's actually scarier." I said, "It's not scary. It's bookkeeping. If you have ever been the family member who embarrasses everyone simply by drawing a line, hit subscribe. I tell these stories every Sunday. I read every comment." Jennifer finished her coffee. She rinsed the cup in my sink. She looked out the window over the yard. The bounce house was long gone. Bill had come Monday after the party and shut it down quietly. She said, "Myra, what's the actual play?" I said, "Saturday the 28th, Cypress Ridge. The Hartley Ballroom. The Quinceanera." She turned and looked at me. "Wait, the Hartley Ballroom? As in?" I said, "Yes, as in." Friday morning. Aaron's office. 8th floor of a building downtown, overlooking the Hornets Arena. He had laid the papers out in the order I needed them. The certified probated will. The court order. The life insurance disbursement record showing the $340,000 had cleared into the trust account Aaron managed for me in February. The chain of custody for the emerald ring. The chain of custody for the cedar box. The chain of custody for the photograph albums and the Bible, which had been delivered to my mother's house in late March by certified mail, signed for by Greg. He confirmed the date Brittany had booked the Quinceanera. Saturday, May 28th. Ceremony at 5 in the afternoon, reception at 6. Venue, Cypress Ridge Country Club. Room, the Hartley Ballroom. Aaron looked up at me over his reading glasses. He said, "Myra, the Hartley Ballroom. Hartley as in?" I said, "My grandmother." He sat back. "And as in?" I said, "My company. Household Capital purchased the naming rights 2 years ago. A corporate gift to the club, $200,000. I signed the paperwork. The plaque carries my grandmother's name because I asked them to put it there. The club agreed because I wrote the check." He looked at me for a long moment. He said, "Diane knows this?" I said, "Diane has not asked me a single question about my work in 8 years. She does not know I am a VP. She does not know we purchased the naming rights. She doesn't read my Christmas cards." Aaron took off his glasses. He set them carefully on the desk. For half a second, he looked like a man trying not to smile and not quite managing it. He said, "Myra, the room they intend to humiliate you in is the room you named. 2 days after I sent the dollar, Saturday, May 14th, the doorbell rang at 8:43 in the morning. I was in the kitchen, coffee in one hand. Lily was at school. Jennifer had picked her up at 7:30 and taken her to the lake with her own daughter for the day. The plan was a packed lunch, a paddle boat, and ice cream on the drive home. The doorbell rang again, then a knock. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. 2 officers. Davidson PD. The female officer in front appeared to be in her mid-40s. Sandy hair pulled back. Her partner was a younger man standing behind her, one hand resting on his belt. I opened the door. I did not open the screen door. She introduced herself. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Daniels, Davidson PD. This is Officer Reyes. We received a complaint of grand larceny that named you as the party in possession of the alleged item. Do you have a moment to speak?" I stepped out onto the porch. I closed the front door behind me. I was barefoot. The porch wood was warm from the early morning sun. I said, "Yes. Which item does the complaint concern?" She glanced at her notes. An emerald ring, described as a family heirloom, valued by the complainant at approximately $15,000. I said, "May I ask who filed the complaint?" She said, "A Mrs. Diane Eaton." I nodded once. I had known what the answer would be before I asked. I asked anyway because I have learned over time to let my mother's choices be hers, in her own words on the record. I said, "Officer, I'll need to step inside briefly to retrieve a document." "May I?" She said, "Yes, ma'am." I walked to my office. I unlocked the bottom file drawer. I lifted out the manila folder labeled Hartley, Eleonora. Inside it, in a clear plastic sleeve, was the certified probated will of Eleonora Hartley, court seal on the cover sheet. Inside a smaller velvet box sat the ring itself. Behind the will was the itemized bequest list. Behind that was the chain of custody form, signed by Aaron Rose and notarized. I walked back to the porch. I handed the entire folder to Officer Daniels. She took it with both hands. She read the cover sheet of the will. She turned to the bequest list. Her eyes scanned for the relevant line. I knew it was on page 4. I had read it 43 times. Item 19. 1 emerald ring. Gold setting. 18th century origin. Appraised value $14,750. Bequeathed to Myra Eaton, granddaughter. She read it. She closed the folder. She handed it back to me. She said, "Ma'am, would you mind showing me the item itself?" I said, "Of course." I opened the velvet box. The ring rested in deep blue felt. The emerald was approximately the size of my thumbnail. My grandmother had worn it on her right hand for 57 years. She had never once removed it, except in the final week of her life. Officer Daniels studied it. She did not touch it. She nodded once. She stepped aside and got on her radio. She spoke for about 30 seconds. She returned. She said, "Ma'am, I apologize for the disturbance. This appears to be a fully documented legal transfer. We're going to close this complaint." Then she said, "You're entitled to file for false reporting, misdemeanor in our jurisdiction. We can take the affidavit right now if you'd like." I closed the velvet box. I held it in my palm. I said, "Officer, I appreciate the offer, but I have something considerably better than a misdemeanor." Officer Daniels gave me a half smile that did not quite reach her eyes, but somehow still managed to honor what I had just said. She handed me her business card and told me to call her directly if my mother attempted to file any further complaints. She and her partner left. They drove off down the cul-de-sac in a quiet patrol car at 5 miles an hour. A neighbor across the street pretended to be watering plants. He had quite clearly been watering those plants for the duration of the entire visit. I closed the front door behind me. I walked back to the kitchen. My coffee was cold. I called Aaron Rose. I said, "Today. We do it today." He said, "May 28th. 2 weeks." I said, "Yes." He confirmed that Mr. Hendricks, the executor of my grandmother's estate, was available. The reading instructions had been notarized. 3 of my grandmother's closest friends, Mrs. Calloway from across the street, Reverend Pike from First Methodist, and Mrs. Park, who was Jennifer's mother and had been my grandmother's bridge partner for 19 years, had been on standby for months. I called my CEO from the kitchen. His name is David Owens. He has known me 8 years. I said, David, I'd like to attend a private family event at the Hartley Ballroom on the 28th. I'd like to bring our general counsel and the executor of my grandmother's estate. Would the firm have any concern with that? He laughed quietly. He said, Myra, it's literally your name on the wall. Take whoever you need. Do you want security? I said, no. Just a quiet check-in with the club's events director the morning of. He said, done. I'll handle it. I hung up. I poured fresh coffee. I had not asked permission for anything in 6 months. I did not need to start now. May 28th, 4:15 in the afternoon. Cypress Ridge Country Club. The Hartley Ballroom. I wore a deep emerald dress, tea-length, cap sleeves. My hair was pinned up the way my grandmother had taught me to pin it. The emerald ring was on my right hand. My grandmother's pearl necklace, the one with the small emerald set at the center, rested at my collar. I parked beneath the magnolia tree at the far side of the lot. Aaron was already there. He stepped out of his sedan in a navy suit. Mr. Hendricks, the executor, was a trim man of about 70 in a charcoal suit with a small American flag pin on his lapel. Mrs. Calloway wore a lavender dress and held her purse with both hands. Reverend Pike wore a black suit and a clerical collar. Mrs. Park wore navy and pearls and looked, in profile, like my grandmother's twin. We walked together across the parking lot. We did not hurry. We did not slow. The Hartley Ballroom is on the south side of the clubhouse. The plaque outside the double doors reads, Hartley Ballroom, a gift of Halsard Capital, Charlotte, North Carolina, in honor of Eleanora M. Hartley, RN, 1942 to 2023. Brittany was at the registration table inside the foyer. She was wearing a pale gold gown. She was checking off guests on a clipboard. She looked up when I came through the doors. She went white. Not pale. White. She said, Myra, what are you? You can't be here. I said calmly in the voice I use in board meetings, I have an envelope from the executor of my grandmother's estate. I will be brief. I will be quiet. I will be gone in 10 minutes. She looked at Mr. Hendricks. She looked at the plaque on the wall behind me. She set down her pen. My mother was 30 feet inside the ballroom, standing near the stage where the DJ was setting up. She was in a champagne dress, holding a clipboard, issuing directions to a man adjusting the height of a microphone. Camila, 14, in a soft blue gown with a beaded bodice, stood nearby. Her hair was up. She had practiced. She had been practicing all week. I knew this because Megan had told me. The room held about 70 guests. Round tables of 8, white linens, pink and gold centerpieces. The catering staff was setting out salad plates. My mother turned. She saw me. She saw the emerald necklace at my collar. She saw the ring on my hand. She saw the 5 people standing behind me in suits and a clerical collar. She set down her clipboard. She walked toward me. She was a woman in good shoes who had been a small, powerful presence in our kitchen for 32 years. And she was, in that moment, the smallest she had ever looked. She came close. She lowered her voice to a hiss. She said, You are not welcome here. This is family. You leave right now. You leave right now or I am calling security. I kept my voice low. I kept my voice level. I had practiced too. I said, Mom, I am here on Grandma's instruction. There is an envelope. The executor reads it, or I read it. You decide which. Her eyes moved to Mr. Hendricks, to Aaron, to Mrs. Calloway. She knew Mrs. Calloway. Mrs. Calloway had brought her a casserole the week my grandmother died. The room had gone quiet. The catering staff had stopped moving. The DJ had set down his microphone. Camila was watching from the stage. She had not moved. Mr. Hendricks stepped forward. He was unhurried. He walked to the small registration table at the front of the ballroom and set down a leather portfolio. He opened it. He withdrew a single envelope sealed in red wax. He cleared his throat once. The room, which had already gone quiet, went quieter. He read in the measured, careful voice of a man who has read wills aloud for 40 years. I, Eleanora May Hartley of Davidson, North Carolina, being of sound mind and under no duress, do request this letter be read at any family event organized by my daughter Diane Eaton within 12 months of my death, if and only if my granddaughter Myra Eaton requests its reading. The reading is to be conducted by my appointed executor, Henry Hendricks. This is my final exercise of authority over my own estate. He paused. He turned to the second page. Diane, I watched you choose Brittany at every birthday. I watched you miss Myra's 10th birthday and remember Camila's salon appointment that same afternoon. I asked you about it once, gently in my own kitchen while you dried the dishes. You told me Myra did not need you the way Brittany did. You said it the way someone says it when it is a virtue they have stopped feeling obligated to love. That was the day I called my attorney. He turned to the third page. The life insurance policy I held, $340,000, was assigned to my granddaughter Myra Eaton in the second month of our last date together. The cedar box on her dresser is hers. The emerald ring on her hand right now is hers. The savings account is hers. You received the photograph albums, the Bible, and my apology, the one I could not deliver to you in any sufficient form. The room was holding its breath. He turned to Camila. He read the final paragraph directly to her. Camila, you are not in this letter because you have done anything wrong. You are mentioned because you are the next woman in this family, and I want you to hear from me directly. Do not let them write your story. Be loved for who you are, not for who you remind them of. Live freely, Mija. He closed the portfolio. My mother's composure broke. Her mouth opened. Her voice came out high and fractured. She said she was an old woman. She said she couldn't find the words. I kept my voice low and even. Looking directly at her, I said, she knew. She just didn't tell you. My mother's voice rose. You couldn't wait. You ruined her party. Look at her. She is crying. Camila was not crying. Camila was standing very still on the stage with both hands clasped in front of her beaded bodice, watching me with a look on her face I would think about for the rest of that summer. Brittany came forward from the foyer. She took my mother's arm. She said, Mom, stop. Mom, please stop. I looked at my mother. Then at Brittany. I said, your event is paid for, Mom. Camila's dress is paid for. The catering, the venue, the DJ, the cake. All paid for. I am not taking any of this from her. I never was. I waited a beat. I said, I am taking back the part of me that believed I had to ask. I turned. The 5 witnesses turned with me. The doors of the Hartley Ballroom were heavy oak with brass handles set in original 1946 millwork. They had been refinished 2 years earlier as part of the corporate gift. I had personally signed off on the millwork sample in a meeting that had taken 27 minutes. We walked through them. Behind me, the room held its silence for the count of 3. Then a single chair scraped. Then a murmur. Then nothing I could hear, because we were already in the foyer and Aaron was holding the outer door and the late afternoon sun was on my face. We walked across the parking lot to our cars. Mrs. Calloway took my hand briefly at her car door. She did not say anything. She did not need to. I got in my car. I drove home to Lily. 2 days later, on Monday, May 30th, I received a text from a number I did not recognize. Aunt Myra, it's Camila. Can I see you? I'm using my friend's phone because Mom took mine. I texted back. Coffee shop on Main in Davidson. 4 o'clock, I'll be at a corner table. She arrived at 5 minutes past. Jeans, gray hoodie, no makeup, hair in a low ponytail. In that hoodie, she looked all of 12. She sat down across from me and ordered nothing. She said, I didn't know. I said, I know you didn't. She said, about Lily. About the birthday. About any of it. Mom told me you didn't come to my planning meeting because you were too busy. She said you didn't care. She paused. I made you a playlist for the after party. 8 songs. I never gave it to you. She pulled a small USB drive from her hoodie pocket and slid it across the table. I want to give it to Lily, if she'll have it. I took it. She said, I want to know my grandmother. The one in the letter. Will you tell me about her? I said, she wanted you to grow up free, Camila. Not as a weapon. She was a nurse for 31 years. She raised your mother and mine in a house she built by hand with my grandfather. She made the finest cornbread in the state of North Carolina. She would have loved you. She did love you. She just couldn't reach you through them. Camila's eyes went wet, but she did not let them spill. She said, will I see you again? I said, If you call me, yes. Use any phone. Call from anywhere. She nodded. She stood. She left. I sat with my coffee. I held the USB drive in my palm. 1 month later, on the last Sunday in June, Lily turned 8 and 1 month. We did not have a large party. We had a small one. Jennifer and her daughter, Mrs. Park, the cake lady from the bakery on Main, and 3 of Lily's classmates with their mothers. The bounce house I did not keep. Bill had been kind enough to let me transfer the deposit to my neighbor's son's birthday in July for $40. He delivered the cherry red bounce house himself and gave Lily a small wave over the back fence. Lily kept one name card, hers. The one that read birthday girl in her careful printing. She kept it in the top drawer of her bedside table. I kept the cedar box on my dresser. Inside it, on a small square of white linen, sits the emerald ring. Next to the ring is a folded piece of cardstock that reads Grandma Diane in gold marker, my mother's name, spelled exactly the way Lily had practiced for 2 weeks. I retrieved it from the trash can the night of the party, after Lily was asleep. I smoothed the corners with my thumb. Lily has not asked about Grandma Diane in 7 months. She does not ask the wrong question anymore. What I learned from those empty chairs was this. Family is not the people who share your last name. Family is the contract you sign with the witnesses who show up, in writing, in good faith, on the day you said you needed them. That is my story. $1. 1 letter. 1 door I never opened again. If this story reminded you to write something down before they tell you it never happened, take that as your sign. Thank you for being here. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.